Good morning, everyone. Is it bull or bear market? That's the topic of today, and we're not going to discuss Ethereum because, well, it's been discussed a lot already. Before we're going to continue, do not forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel, as right now we're getting close to 100k subs, and we have to get verified on YouTube, and that's the way to go. At 100k, I'll become verified on YouTube, so do not forget to subscribe and help me out, as we only need 3k more. Also, the market have probably punched everything out of you, every joy, every euphoria, while right now it's starting to become quite boring, which is similar to what we have experienced in March 2020 when the crash happened. It just remained a flat liner on a higher level, and the actual hype went away from the markets. That starts to feel like the case, or that seems to be the case right now as well, which is granting you opportunities. So we're going to look a little about Bitcoin, but also a little about altcoins at this stage. So finally, I've adjusted the text on the axis in which you can actually finally see what type of numbers I'm discussing in the update. So I've increased that size. Hopefully it's a good adjustment for you in general to watch those YouTube videos. So let's get to the charts. I've got the lower time frame Bitcoin chart here, as it shows you what the actual structure means at this stage. Next to that, we've still got an open CME gap at 50k. So the chances are that we're going to get to that level at 50k in the next week. And what is next going to happen with the altcoins when Bitcoin is going to make that breaker above 42.5 towards 50k? They are going to follow suit. As everything is still very correlated, this drop down is pushed by Ethereum and Bitcoin. But altcoins are going to follow suit, especially when Bitcoin is going to take its time to just relax and get onto higher standards. It wouldn't be crazy to expect that the altcoins are finally going to outperform Bitcoin. So the question is, am I still standing behind my entire view of the market? Yes, I'm still standing behind it. I was assuming that we were going to get that retest around 38 to 41. Regardless of that, I wasn't assuming that we were going towards 28 on the futures and 30k because some failures on the exchanges were happening. And right now we're practically about the level that I was assuming we were going to. Altcoins are a little bit lower. Of course we are, but let's discuss the chart. So what do we see on the lower time frames with Bitcoin at this stage? We can see that we've got a rejection at this critical resistance zone. So 42 to 42.5 is the level that we have to break. If we break that level, I'm actually expecting a breaker towards even 47.5, but primarily towards this range around 48 to even 50k. And that would mean that we're going to close the CME gap that's still standing there. And most likely, in the coming hours, we probably close around 42k or something. Then we break up to 50k during the weekend. We have to come back down, and then we start to act sideways. Regardless, what do we see further? We do see this rejection here. We do see that we have made a lower high as we reject here once again. And we do see that we're on a critical support zone. So the area that we have to watch in general is this zone around 39.3. So that has to hold to assure ourselves that we are making higher lows and that we're going to test the 42.5k area again. If we hold there and we push back up, it means that the buyers are pushing upwards and there's more demand from that side than from the seller side. So if that is going to happen, I'm going to assume we get this retest here, and most likely because of those higher lows and the pressure that we're getting towards 42.5, I'm assuming that we're going to make that breaker upwards, and then I expect us to go towards this range. Then I'm also assuming that we're going to see further strength from the altcoins. So it would be wise to sell your altcoins for Bitcoin at this stage. Well, if you're fully exposed to altcoins, you might. But second, if we just have seen such a big crash and we are assuming that Bitcoin is going to bounce up, you're probably going to get a higher ROI by holding your altcoins at this stage. So And for me, it's not an option to sell my altcoins towards Bitcoin at this stage. Probably you would have done that earlier. So if we hold this area and get towards that range, we have to crack the range around 41.2, but we get compression and then probably the breakout above 42.5 towards 45 and get it going like this. If we do not grant ourselves supports at 39.2, I think we're going to have a fill or breakdown, and then we're going to look at something like this, in which this area around 35 is practically the area that we should be holding. Regardless, any of the two cases, so if we hold at 35, that's the critical area, otherwise we're going to make new lows, but that seems not to be the case at this stage, especially not after such a big drawdown. It seems likely that we're not going to get there again when we are in a pure bull market. So if we get at this stage, you can see that the downtrend breakout is most likely going to happen, and that's going to be caused with lots of hype. As right now the status is that we are in extreme fear, and then we're going to have hype again and probably having a pretty big candle upwards to get this gap going, and then we're going to be towards 47.5. So the levels to watch: 42.5 still on the downside, 39.2. If that is lost, I'm going to look at 35, looking at such a scenario as well, and that's about the case for Bitcoin right now. So when we look at altcoins, and I've shared an update on HOlo token earlier today, you can see that most of them are making a full correction, right? Full retrace, which means that it's actually granting you opportunities rather than opportunities to sell. Where do you want to sell when everybody discusses it? We've discussed HOlo token, and we have shared those levels as points of interest. What is most likely going to happen for an altcoin like HOlo token? Well, we've got a critical resistance zone that we have to break here. In that perspective, I'd like to see something like this, sideways action, and then we just continue to go with a new cycle again. Don't look at the time scale, it's just a scenario that I'm looking at, as the critical breaker here is very similar to what Chainlink has been doing before it started to break out. That's this resistance zone. So HOlo token got all the way back, rejects probably here, comes back down. Probably that's because of Bitcoin getting towards 50k. Then a higher low confirmation, another test, and then we start to break out and have a new cycle once again. And in the ultimate case, I'm not assuming that we're going to get towards this low again. Maybe we get something like this and then we continue to move. And you can see it on many of those altcoins, as DENT is also showing such a chart in which we discussed that this is resistance and this is also a rejection. So we are making lower highs and lower lows. This is an area that I'm interested in DENT. I've covered that because if it loses this level, you're only interested here. Second level is this. So practically, DENT should be getting towards a bottom in construction, in which the actual resistance zone that we're looking at is probably around this area. So we are going to get a bounce up, come back down sideways, and then we start to continue moving. And then if you're looking at the Bitcoin pairs of many of those altcoins, yes, they are crushed, right? DIA is currently acting on a very critical support zone. Not sure it's even back below the 100-day and 200-day MA. So this is the area that we should be breaking, but primarily DIA has to move back above 650. If that is done, we can classify this as an outlier and we can start continuing the bull cycle. So right now the focus should be on whether Bitcoin is going to make that breaker upwards. If that is happening, I think that we're going to have the continuation of the cycle in which altcoins are going to break back up quite swiftly, and the chances of the opportunities that you're getting right now are going to be fading away. So I get that you are very unstable about your positions or not feeling secure about entering the markets as negative news takes over, but these are the opportunities that you're looking for, so take them. And please do not forget to subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow with an educational video on what are the tips and tricks of the current market. I'll see you again soon.